Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about the new King Kong film reboot, which is called Kong Skull Island. Director uh, Jordan Vogue Roberts, who directed The Kings of Summer. This is kind of his first big budget movie that he's worked on. Besides Kings of Summer, I don't think he's worked on anything too huge outside of that. But in this movie, guys, it takes place in the same universe as Godzilla did in 2014. Though this film takes place in the 1970s. This film is about a monarch employee from those Godzilla movies where they had that company in that movie as well, and they find out about this island called Skull Island, and Monarch is very much still up and going. They really don't have a lot of money, so they go to other places and other organizations to hopefully find funding to kind of further their research for what their extraterrestrial monster business is all about. Since it's kind of still kind of a slow up and coming business, they don't really have a lot of the details worked out and so forth, and so they need funding to basically go to the Skull Island to further research it to see if there's forms of life that's still yet to have to be discovered by mankind and so forth. So they eventually do work out the details. They use a big boat and some helicopters to get a militaristic group of people. Both a an army photographer and all these different kinds of military positions. Basically help them get to this island and to do the research that they have always wanted to do. Though they keep it secret that they are kind of aware of King Kong and some other monsters that are probably on this island that still need research on and some information about and so forth. This film's ultimately about getting to this island, researching it. Only to find that King Kong is very much more monstrous and threatening than they thought he would be, and they have to figure out, how can they get back out into society again and be able to have details about Skull Island and so forth, and really not try to upset King Kong too much, because if they upset King Kong too much, they're probably not going to make it off this island alive, because Kong is very important to this this Skull Island people. Losing Kong would ultimately be about having these monsters run through this island and probably killing off a lot of these people. So they need Kong there to kill off some of these big monsters that are very much threatening to the Skull Island people, because without Kong, the island really can't survive on its own too well. So overall, guys, I loved Kong Skull Island. I thought it was a very fun movie, very action-packed, very visually stunning. I will get to my negatives here because it's not quite a perfect film. In my personal opinion, too, I think I like the 2014 Gareth Edwards Godzilla film a little bit more. I thought that film, this film had a lot of visual flair to it, don't get me wrong, but I thought the visual flair in the Gareth Edwards movie and the way it's told and the way the characters were portrayed and kind of how that adventure got up and going, I thought was a little more interesting in that movie than it was in this movie. But like, don't get me wrong though, Kong Skull Island has a ton of great things going for it. A lot of great people did a lot of great things for this movie. So let's go over those positives and negatives, because Kong Skull Island, when it works well, it really, really works well. So for my positives and negatives of Kong Skull Island, I like this new look of Skull Island. I think it's probably the best looking Skull Island we've had in a King Kong movie. I like how all forms of life seem to live and breathe on this island. I like how I can walk around this island and be able to explain to somebody what Skull Island is and why it's important not to walk into the lake alone, or important to, not go into the forest alone and so forth. So I like how Skull Island has all these characteristics about it that are very catchy, that very much stay with you. A lot of the monsters outside of King Kong are also very interesting in this movie, so a huge thumbs up to that. Like I said, this is probably the best looking Skull Island we've had in a King Kong film in quite some time. I also thought the visual effects in this film were quite amazing. Whenever a monster's in the movie, whenever a character's interacting with a monster, or they're working their way through a swamp and they encounter monsters and so forth, the visual effects work very well in this movie. They feel very believable. They just really make you feel like you're on this island with these people, and these monsters can attack you at any second and so forth. Just great visual effect work. It works very well in this movie. I also like how this film is very much a part of the Godzilla universe. I like how I can very much feel that Godzilla is around in this world somewhere, either whether he's sleeping, whether he's just not quite in the picture yet. I like how I feel that that Godzilla is somewhere on this planet. Maybe not Skull Island, but I like how he can exist in this world. It feels like something that Godzilla would exist in, along with these other Skull Island monsters. So very cool how they worked that in. I liked how, like I said, that Godzilla feels like he can be a part of this universe. I also thought the action scenes were very good in this movie. The Jordan Vogt Roberts, who directed this movie, he seems to have a good sense of how to put you into the action scene, what the character's feeling during the action scenes. I like how interactive and how everything just feels like it comes together, because the action scenes do feel very strong in this movie. He seems to know how to choreograph action very well. There's also unique island creatures of all kinds in this movie. If you're in a forest or in a swamp, or wherever you're at in Skull Island, a unique creature of some kind exists somewhere on this island, and it's not just King Kong. It's not just the squids in the lake. It's not just the Jurassic-looking birds and so forth. There's unique monsters of all kinds. No matter where you go on Skull Island, there's a huge monster of some kind that lives and breathes there, and you really feel like these monsters have been around for a while, and there's kind of these unofficial rules established as far as what they will do if you get them mad and so forth. So I liked how unique a lot of these island creatures were in this movie. For performances, I thought John C. Reilly, Samuel L. Jackson, Tom Hiddleston, and Brie Larson were probably the four most interesting characters in the movie. Some of them had, a unique personality, a unique view of Skull Island, or amongst the group of people that went to Skull Island, they kind of add something unique to the group. I thought John C. Reilly specifically the most. Really added a lot to the movie. He added a lot of personality and kind of some humor in the movie. So as far as performances go, those four performances really struck me as some of the better ones. I also like how this film looks and feels and has the tone of Apocalypse Now. It definitely, because it took place in the 70s and because it's very much inspired by that Vietnam War kind of look, I think benefiting the film very much came from that inspiration from Apocalypse Now, just how it looks and feels, and borrows elements that work so well in this movie, and it's carried over into this movie, and it works very, very well. I also thought Jordan Vogt Roberts, I feel like he's a promising new director on our hands. I feel like, with other big action or sci-fi properties, we can get some other really amazing films out of him. It has been rumored that he might direct a Metal Gear Solid film, which I'd be very much up for. I think he would do a very good job at that, specifically with that Vietnam War Apocalypse Now look that he established within Kong Skull Island. If he brought that to Metal Gear Solid, he would make a very fun Metal Gear Solid movie. For negatives of Kong Skull Island, I thought some of the, besides the ones I mentioned, like John C. Reilly, Samuel L. Jackson, Tom Hiddleston, and Brie Larson, I thought everybody else was just kind of boring and flat. They really weren't given a lot to do. Some of them were just kind of there for Kong or one of the monsters to attack after a while. One that really just didn't need to be in this movie was Toby Kebbell. Amazing actor, amazing motion capture actor. I would have been fine with him just doing some of the motion capture work of these creatures. Unfortunately, he does have a role in the movie, and it's just not very interesting, and he's not really given a lot to do. You just kind of forget that he's in the movie after a while, to be honest. You just kind of completely forget about him. There's other characters in this movie you just completely forget about over the course of the movie. There's also a lot of dumb character actions in this movie. One that really struck out to me as stupid, and it's not a spoiler because they do show it in the trailer. Igniting bombs the second you get onto an uncharted island. Don't you think you want to explore the island and figure out what it is and see what the monsters are like before you start igniting bombs off? Is it just me? It's just like, why are they doing that? They're just doing it just to do it. And it's kind of their fault that Kong got upset as he did, just because these idiots laid off all these bombs. It's just like, don't do that. Explore the island, see what it's like, see what the monsters are like. Don't just drop these bombs everywhere. Of course, you're going to get someone mad on the island. Another negative I have with the movie is some of the really big names like Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston and stuff. I feel like the story is so invested in making sure they survive the movie that when big action scenes happen that where lives could get lost and so forth, I feel like they are kind of dominating the story too much as far as making sure they stay alive the whole movie. Just like, oh, well, we can't kill off that person because they're too famous. We can't kill off this person because it's too famous. It's just like, I feel like all the smaller people who aren't as famous, who were a part of the movie, were kind of victim of this. And it's just like, it'd be nice to have a story where maybe one or two of these celebrities could actually die for once. And speaking of celebrities, I thought the use of John Goodman in this movie was just not very good. When he's in the movie, he's interesting, I guess, as far as how long they kept him around and so forth. But there's just a complete drop off point in the movie where they just don't develop his character any further, and that's too bad, because if you're going to put John Goodman in the movie, put John Goodman in the movie. He's very talented. He's been in tons of great movies. It's really too bad they really didn't give him a lot to work with in this movie. There's also a very drawn out helicopter scene in this movie. It is shown in a lot of the trailers for this movie. For me personally, it felt a little drawn out. I felt like it goes on longer than it should. They could have ended it, I think, a lot sooner than they did. So overall, I'm going to give Kong Skull Island an 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, these visuals are very strong. This is the best looking Skull Island we've had in a movie in a while. The action scenes are great. I loved all the unique island creatures on Skull Island. Some of the performances are really good, maybe not so much as others. I loved the Apocalypse Now look and tone of the movie. Jordan Vogt Roberts seems like a promising new director, but some of these characters are a little boring and flat. Some of the character actions are just too dumb, and I just can't get behind some of them. Some of the celebrity fame dominated the script too much when it shouldn't have. And the use of John Goodman I thought wasn't that good, and once again, that drawn-out helicopter scene could have been trimmed down quite a bit in the editing room, I thought. So 8.5 out of 10, very much recommends Kong Skull Island. I highly recommend this movie if you love monster movies like the 2014 Godzilla movie. So huge thumbs up for me. Make sure to check out Kong Skull Island.